A very good evening to all the delegates, all the faculty here, and our esteemed tumor board members. So I want to, dwell into an hem-onc tumor board today, and this is going to be AML, and I think this is something which interests a lot of us, and it's a rather difficult disease. And we sometimes, some medical oncologists, we feel very negative about treating this illness. But yes, there is a lot which has happened over the last few years, and we will look into that also. So this patient, let me come to our patient. This is a 17-year-old male with no family history of any malignancy, no comorbidities, and he presented with high-grade fever, poor appetite, and generalized weakness for the last few days. This is the complete blood count at presentation. The hemoglobin was 10.1 gram per deciliter. White cell count was 1.47 lakh. And platelets 78,000. The peripheral smear showed more than 95% blasts, and the bone marrow aspiration similarly studded with blasts. And the karyotyping, obviously, and the mutational profile, as we do for all AML patients, was done. This is the flow cytometry result, and this was an AML. And also, because the white cell count was so high, and we thought that we would be okay in initiating the donor workup also at the same time. And we did start the patient on 7-3 induction. And this was Ara-C and donomycin. We generally tend to use donomycin at 60 mg per meter square for 3 days. And Ara-C, what we use in our center, is 200 mg per meter square for 7 days. That's what we did. And this is the karyotyping result. And the cytogenetics did not show up any abnormality. But there was an FLT3 ITD mutation. And the allelic ratio here was 0.32. And so we thought it would be wise to add midostaurin, and we did add from day 8 onwards at 50 mg twice a day for this patient. So this is the post-induction situation where we found that the marrow showed 21% blast, so it was actually an induction failure only. And thereafter we used a salvage regimen, and this was CLAM-G, which we use in our center. This is a clofarabine-based protocol. Right now, clofarabine is not available in India. It has been probably withdrawn, but at that time it was available. And clofarabine metoxantrone is the backbone which we used here with midostaurin, which we thought we should continue. And we did the repeat marrow thereafter, and it actually got cleared, and the MRD also was negative on flow. And next, we did plan an allogenic HSCT for this patient. This patient did fall into the intermediate risk category, but had a high white cell count and had an FLT3 mutation, was a young patient. So we did, get HLA typing also done, and we found that it was 5-on-10 matching with the sister, and there was no available mud for this patient. And there was another problem which was staring at us, which was the donor-specific antibodies. It was a very high titer positivity and 17,640 MFI. For this patient, the DSAs were positive in very high titers, and was also difficult to contemplate a haploidentical transplant for this patient. So let me also pose a few questions to our tumor board members. Tumor board A, may I ask you? So how would you proceed such a patient? This is, FLT3 mutated patient with a high white cell count at baseline, and allelic ratio is 0.32. And we don't have a match. And for the haplodonor, we have significant amount of high titer antibodies. What do we do? I think some problem with the mic. Does somebody have a solution for that?
Yeah. So as you very nicely presented the case, it's a young male, and he has a high WBC and the FLT3 positivity, and he had induction failure with 3+7. So the only hope for this patient is an allo transplant, and I would prefer a haplo in this patient, because I want the best GVL effect in this patient. And I understand the amount of MFI, the fluorescence index is above 5,000, and this patient.
There's a 17,000 for this patient.
So no, MFI is above 5,000 mark.
Yeah.
That means this patient requires desensitization with IVIG or plasma exchange.
So would you have done anything different at the outset? Would you have chosen a different chemotherapy backbone, some other regimen? What would you have done at the outset?
The experience with cloferaben is not much with us. We use Flagida
Okay.
in this particular patient.
So do you use
make
do you use
difference.
upfront Flagida for any of your
No.
patients?
So we would have used the same 3+7
Okay.
and we use 100 per meter square. I know 200 per meter square is also reasonable. I think nothing much. This is a
Anything with
difficult
the
disease.
donomycin dose, do you change it?
No, 60
No.
per meter square is what.
A
we
few
do
years
follow.
back, there was a lot of debate on 60, 75, 90 mg per
Right.
meter square, 45 versus 90.
So
So do you believe in that?
45 is inferior to 60. And if you compare 60 and 90, it's reasonable. 60 is a well accepted dose and idarubicin is one.
So any thoughts from tumor boards B and C on this? Anything different you would done at baseline? Any different chemotherapy induction or any other drug? Yeah, please proceed.
See the induction failure with the 3+7, that means patient is refractory to this. And now, I can tell you that compassionate basis of gilteritinib is also available, which is a next generation of the FLT3 inhibitors, and
Yes.
it's a very specific one. And it gives almost 16% of CR. So it's a good drug. It's an oral one. You don't have to admit because toxicity with what he said with Flagida is quite huge. And the response is also quite problematic. Even the drug, other drug. So there are other regimens which people also use using any HMA drugs like azacitidine. Now
Yes.
oral azacitidine is also coming. So there are various options in second line after failure with the 3+7. But the new FLT3 gilteritinib is the one which is probably going to stay and going to come in more.
So gilteritinib is one drug to look at. So let's see what happened in the case for this patient. So there was no
Excuse
available.
me, we have one question.
Yeah, please.
The HLA, DSA matching and all that was done for his parents, other siblings.
Yeah. So this is the DSA for the maximum level DSA which he had for all for all the patient, all the relatives. It was done
Okay.
with the parents also. For the parents also, he had high titer DSA.
And since
Yeah.
this patient had very high TLC at presentation, what is the CNS prophylaxis that we have?
Yeah. So this patient did receive the intrathecals
Okay.
at the outset, but we give intrathecal at the end of the induction. Once the patient, has, reasonable reduction in the blast count, we don't do at the outset. When the count is 1 lakh, we don't do an intrathecal.
Third question
Yeah.
I had was, the baseline blast count was 80%, right?
Okay.
And post 3.
So I'm the moderator here. So you have to answer my questions. You don't get to cross question me.
Sorry.
Okay.
Post 3+7,
Proceed anyways.
Can we give the same induction? Why not
Okay.
just repeat the same?
So that is a
induction?
question for you. What
I
would
mean,
you have
there-
done?
There is there is more than 50% reduction in the blast count.
Yeah.
So why not just repeat the same induction?
Yeah, that's a reasonable option. But let me ask you the data. At the outset, for such a young patient, let's say for 18 to 16 years, what is the data for Flagida versus 3 and 7?
Actually, for second induction, there is no head-to-head comparison.
So what is it for the first induction?
The more, if
Is there a study?
if we compare the data separately, yes, but then head-to-head, no.
There is a head-to-head study between Flagida and 3 and 7. And that study showed a higher CR rate with Flagida and also a better RFS at the outset, upfront. But now the problem was this was an FLT3 mutated AML and there was no data for midostaurin upfront with Flagida.
Yes, yes.
So either you could choose Flagida alone or you could choose 3 and 7 with Mido. What would you have done?
I would have definitely gone for Flagida only.
Only Flagida without Mido?
No, with Mido.
With Mido,
Then
okay.
just
So my
discussion.
option
So what is
Yeah.
your institutional protocol for such a patient? You
What?
start off everybody with Flagida and Mido or something else?
No, we start everybody with 3+7.
Okay.
Plus, most of the time, midostaurin is not not
Okay.
affordable. So
So that I'm going to come later.
Yeah.
What would you have done if
Yeah.
midostaurin is not affordable? Is there any other alternative? I'll come to that. So let me,
Dr. Prashant,
Yeah.
just wanted to ask,
Yeah, Vinny.
is it always, adding IDA, is it required? Because we can also do with only flag or
Flag.
clag.
So that is a
IDA
reasonable
usually
option.
adds to the cardiotoxicity and the chances.
That
of
is a reasonable option, but the CR rates with Flagida with flag is more. The CR rate, the survival, nobody can comment, but yes, the CR rate definitely is going to increase with the addition of IDA.
Just
Yeah,
one
but
more.
the cardiotoxicity also increases. The chances of cardiotoxicity.
It is a possibility, yes.
And MEC is also a decent option, and we have used MEC in good number
Yeah.
of patients and achieved here sir, in tumor board one.
Yeah, it is an option.
MEC is
Yes,
an option.
yes, metoxantrone etoposide you're talking of.
So
Better
Prashant,
etc.
Prashant, here, behind you, here, behind you.
Yeah,
Look-
please.
Look to your left, look to your left.
Yeah, please, sir. So sorry.
So I think you probably have come today and now the purpose of these three groups, A, B, and C. Group A, the one sitting on my right, is that you guys represent the clinicians who have access to patients who have only government support. Now tell me, in whichever state you work, can you get midostaurin for your patient? Can you get second line?
So I'm going to come to
You're
that
coming to
more
that?
also.
Okay.
Yes. So this patient, we did a desensitization for this patient. This was another institutional protocol which we have. We use 5 days of plasmapheresis followed by IVIG at this dose and rituximab flat dose 100. We did present this data at ISBMT also 2 years back, and it does work. And we were able to significantly desensitize this patient, and we were able to, take him up for a haploidentical transplant. We did succeed with that. The patient engrafted on day plus 17, but did have a delayed platelet recovery, and DSA could possibly have been a reason for that. And we had to add romiplostim beyond day 90 for getting a platelet recovery. So because he was requiring transfusions, but day 120 we got a platelet recovery. He did fine, and we did start with maintenance ASA because I thought that he still remains a high risk of relapse. So we did start with ASA maintenance. After that, we did 2 cycles with that, but the patient developed respiratory symptoms, and he was later diagnosed with. And this was during the peak of the COVID pandemic. We were so confused. What is going to happen? Is it COVID? Is it something else? But we found that it was actually lung GVHD. We did all the workup, and we managed the GVHD with the steroids and FAM protocol, and obviously we added imatinib later, and the patient recovered from BOOP also, and he is presently doing well. And he's day 617 at present, and he's MRD negative by flow and PCR both. So now let's come to our tumor board situations. So tumor board A has to decide the treatment, as Sir said, for a patient who can only afford under Arogya scheme or a government scheme. There may be statewide variability in how the government supports such patients. And there are some limitations to that, what drug they can procure, as Sir said. And the tumor board B has to decide for a patient who is affording, but is of a geriatric age. He's 70 years and has comorbidities of diabetes and hypertension, also has a reduced LV ejection fraction. Tumor board C has to decide the treatment for an affording patient with no comorbidities, but who is living alone, and spouse has died and children are abroad. And these are the common situations we actually encounter in our clinic. So let's start with our first question. This is for tumor board A. So what would be the choice of induction therapy for an FLT3, ITD, and I would also add, let's say TKD, mutated AML? Would it be 7 and 3 induction for somebody who is in government schemes, or would be chemotherapy with midostaurin, or with chemotherapy with sorafenib or HMA venetoclax? What would you do?
So the chemotherapy backbone is 3+7. That is available for us.
Okay.
And if you look
so-
into the
So what is
FLT3
the cost which the government supports in your state, or how much of it is
So for
there in your state?
AML treatment up to 5 lakhs.
Up to 5
support
lakhs.
is there.
So sir, do you have any comments to make on that? Can you check on the mic, please?
So I think if you follow the treatment which Prashant has given this patient, I think this patient must have spent about half a CR to get into remission and remain in remission.
He did spend quite a lot, but I have not calculated on that, but yes,
Yeah.
quite a lot.
So
Haplo, in itself, it did cost about 18 lakh to us.
80 lakhs. So maybe
Haplo
maybe a
identical
CR.
And there was 2 inductions before that. Yes, it
So
was.
again, in the government setting, I'm reminded of Dr. Vikram Matthews' paper across the country. He did a survey of AML treatment in the real world situation. And he published that 1/5 of the patients, 20% of all diagnosed AMLs are treated in our country. So this would be a very, very exceptional patient, right? There is no value which you can put to a human life. This man can be cured, then everything is worth it. But is it applicable to the majority, huge majority
Yeah,
of
yeah.
patients diagnosed with AML?
So I
That's a
agree,
big
I agree,
question.
Absolutely. It is very difficult to manage AML
Yeah,
patients.
so if I get a AML patient, I still feel, why did this guy come to me? Why not? Why didn't he go to AIMS or to Prashant or anybody else? I still get that feeling. Back to you.
Yeah,
So Timo Bode.
yeah, in my state, the government supports for the 7+3, and possibly I will be getting sorafenib for the patients who had an FLT.
So you will be
mutation.
utilizing
Yes,
sorafenib based on the SORAMIL trial,
Yes,
where it has shown an RFS advantage
Yes.
and also improved CR rates
yes.
with addition of sorafenib. So that is a fair deal. Have you done that in real life, and have you faced any toxicity issues with sorafenib?
Not much.
So you have not
Especially
faced
in the-
toxicity, or you have not done that?
No much toxicity, especially in the age group of 20 to 40.
Okay.
Above 40 patient may not tolerate more than 1 week of sorafenib. By the day 14, day 15, possibly they will be in a deep neutropenia and they will have some GI toxicity. So then we need to withhold.
So
and-
let me also pose this question to you, sir. So have you utilized sorafenib in induction, and how did you feel about the drug?
It's very, very difficult to tolerate. You
difficult.
have enough toxicities of AML induction, and you have a toxic TKI on top of that. It's a nightmare.
So we had a patient, a young lady, at relapse, she developed FLT3. So for her, we use sorafenib.
Okay.
And if there is FLT3 and you use good dose of sorafenib, the amount of myelosuppression is tremendous. I mean, sort of an aplastic marrow and the counts doesn't recover. Leave apart HFS, mucositis, and gut toxicity. It's very difficult to handle this.
So it's more of a non-specific TKI, and midostaurin with the data does not show delayed recovery though. The recovery is almost
Midostaurin
as-
has some neutropenia,
Yeah.
but sorafenib looks very selected experience,
A
but
little
it is
more
not
toxic.
easy to handle.
So
We can
and
use in a
what
reduced
about
dose.
other options? What about HMA when in such a scenario?
So fair enough, if the patient is phase 3+7, as Hemant sir very correctly said, this cannot be a haplo.
So let me
I would
yeah.
go for azacitidine.
Let me ask you more about B. What would you do at the outset and at relapse or at induction failure? What are your choices?
So this is for 70 year you are saying, or 17.
So this is in general.
Okay.
I'll come to your question also.
So-
In general,
so-
what would you do for a FLT3 mutated AML who is about, let's
So-
say, 20 years old, and you have all
As
these
we
options?
discussed, standard would be 10+3 plus a FLT3 inhibitor. So depending on affordability, either you go for midostaurin or sorafenib.
And have you used sorafenib, and what is your experience using
Yes,
it?
we have used, yes, it does cause toxicity. The cytopenia is prolonged, but in some patients successfully we have been able to use it.
Have you used AZA when at induction failure for any of your younger patients?
Yes.
So
yes,
what is the
very
experience with that, and what dose of venetoclax did you use and how?
So as of this venetoclax, so dose, again, you have to ramp up. However, if you're using posaconazole along with it, we usually go with a lower dose.
What dose with posaconazole did you use?
So 100 only.
100 mg.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you used 400 mg for any of your patients with AML?
We have combined it with posaconazole.
And you
so,
use 100 mg
We've used 100
for all of
mg,
your patients?
and
So
all
that's
of
what
my
I have also
patients
done,
have went
all my
into
patients.
remission with MRD negativity.
So let me ask a general question in the audience and from the board members and you, sir. Has anybody used venetoclax 400 for your AML patients in induction?
Only for 2 to 3 days. Just to begin with.
Just to begin with, you used
Yeah,
to
but
build up
after
the
that,
serum levels or
Yeah,
something.
initially when the venetoclax is available, we used to hike up the 100, 200 and 400.
Okay.
But nowadays, with most of our patients, nobody is
100.
tolerating the 400, even without the azole. With azole, it's a different ball game. But without azole, nobody is tolerating the 400.
The
They have
400
severe
mg. So maybe there's some
cytopenia.
pharmacokinetic differences between us and that study population. So this is why we have to transplant FLT3 mutated AMLs, especially with those who are high AR. And you can see here the Kaplan-Meier curves. With an FLT3 ITD mutation specifically, the survival does go down drastically. With the TKD mutation, there is controversy. So there is some data which shows that it may be an adverse prognostic factor, and there's some data which shows that it doesn't have any impact. But yes, in the RATIFY study, it was shown that even in the TKD mutated population, the midostaurin did have some benefit. So it seems reasonable to test both ITD and TKD at baseline. So this is the study, the RATIFY study, which is one of the major landmark studies from where all this data came up, and we started utilizing midostaurin with 3 and 7 induction. And this is the difference in the median OS, 25.6 months versus 74.7 months with the midostaurin. And this was a significant difference. And this was an overall result as well as in the ITD high, and the trends were favoring in the ITD low as well as TKD mutation, although this was subset analysis. So, but yes, it was for all of these subsets and valid and approved for these situations. So this is the SORA-MEL trial, which one of our tumor board members also mentioned. This was a combination of chemotherapy with sorafenib, and did show an improvement in median EFS of 9 months versus 21 months, and 3-year EFS, as well as the OS was trending towards improvement with the sorafenib. But yes, it is a very difficult drug to handle, as we have learned from our esteemed tumor boards also. So let me ask this question now from tumor board B. And this is an elderly patient with multiple comorbidities. So if this were such a patient, what would you have chosen? Chemotherapy, 7 and 3 induction, or HMA-VEN, or low dose RAC with VEN, or best supportive care, hydroxyurea, or this new fancy drug, a molar combination of RAC and Dono, CPX351. What would you have done? Tumor board B.
So my initial choice is actually HMA plus venetoclax
Okay.
in most of my patients. And I have had a very good experience with this combination. In fact, we have had patients.
I can see literally a smile on your face when you're speaking of HMA-VEN. And that's also my case, because there was nothing for AML for many years.
Yes.
And now something we have.
And even in 80 years, we have been able to pull them out with HMA
Yes,
and venetoclax.
I agree. So I'll share a small bit of my experience. There was a patient, the first patient I treated with HMA-VEN actually attained a CHR at day 14
Yes,
of induction, and
absolutely
that
agree.
she presented with a high count, and it was just magic. But yes, it doesn't happen for every patient, so I'm not saying it's a miracle bullet or something. But yes,
it is worth
it
a
is something
try.
which is really effective for
Yeah.
our AML patients. So yes, what about low dose RAC and venetoclax, or decitabine with venetoclax, or you always use Aza-Ven? Just your practice, you tell me.
Aza-Ven is my preferred choice. I have used Decita plus venetoclax, but then Aza-Ven is so convenient to
Yeah.
go ahead with that it has become.
And now do you
very-
feel it is going to become more convenient?
Yeah, with the oral Aza, I think.
Even
it is
without the
more-
approval, you're okay?
I am not using it as of
Okay.
now. I would not use it without the approval, but then I foresee it will be a good choice.
What about CPX351?
Not used.
Neither have I. So what are your thoughts on the data of CPX351? Anybody in the audience and other tumor boards?
So it's probably better for secondary AMLs or MDS going
So
into
MRC
AMLs.
AML,
Yeah,
you're saying?
yeah,
And also elderly AML.
elderly
Yes.
AML.
Some data
And-
also coming up in pediatric AML, by the way, in the relapse setting.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on CPX351? Another fancy compound.
I obviously know firsthand experience, and
Yes.
we still have to wait
Neither
for
have I.
more data. Yeah. We have to wait for more data, a lot more data.
Sure, sir, sure.
And of all the
We'll wait for the data.
options, if the patient is not affordable for a venetoclax, HMA alone is also a decent option for an elderly one and worth a try.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. HMA alone is also a reasonable option. You're very, very right. What about best supportive care? Would anybody do that? With the availability of HMAs, LDAC, leaving all that out. Anybody would choose BSc in this audience?
At least I would try HMA alone before offering.
You would choose BSc?
explain the risk and benefit of everything and leave it up to the patient to decide.
To choose.
actually.
So for which patient BSc is chosen?
So obviously, there is a whole bunch of patients who get best supportive care along
Yes.
with some form of metronomic treatment.
Agrees.
Almost 50% of patients in the government setup,
So,
because of economic reasons and because of the reasons of not being able to arrange supportive care. So it's a big chunk in the real world
agree,
where-
I agree.
who end up.
So
doing
what
that.
about oral metronomics? Something like 60G. I know a few people are fan of that. 60G toposide. Does anybody use that for such patients?
Yeah,
I've
I
not
use that
mentioned
in a
it here.
large number of patients.
Yeah,
I have
large
no
number of
qualms in
patients.
admitting that.
So what
Large number of
metronomic
patients.
regimens are you comfortable with, and what regimens do you
Oral
use?
6 MP, 50 mg once a day.
So single agent 6
Yeah,
6
6
MP you're saying?
Yeah. Single agent
Anybody
6 MP.
60G toposide is also one, popular regimen. And I know, TMH also utilizes that quite a lot. Dr. Vivek, you were also, keen to say something about 60G etoposide, I think.
Yeah, so selected
And Dr. Bharat is
patients-
also was also mentioning that, I think.
Yeah.
Is he around?
So selected patients who had fungal pneumonias or bad infections to begin with, those patients, if you take them straight ahead with
Yeah.
3+7, you have a high chance of mortality. So in those specific situations, I think, when there is a logistic delay, patients, at TMH, when bed was not available for admission and we knew that we had to delay for a 2-week or 3-week period. So as a bridge to 3+7, we used to utilize these regimens. We used
So
60.
Let me
yeah.
pose another question. For out-of-pocket paying patients, which is cheaper, chemotherapy induction or Azaven in the strategies we use? Tumor board A and B. Which is cheaper?
As and when.
Azaven is cheaper than 3 and 7 induction. Any thoughts on that, sir?
Which when?
Which
The
when
generic-
also?
the
Yeah,
generic when.
that's a very debatable question. I think I
It's because
would
of
not dwell on that
toxicities.
too much.
It is
but
less
yes.
toxic. That is the reason why. it's
The
less
generic
expensive.
one.
Ishan, I
Yes.
don't do,
The Sri Lankan one.
So
don't-
please.
I don't do a lot of AMLs now, but the government Ayushman scheme does not give you anything other than the 7+3.
Yeah.
So even if you have an elderly, you induce it or you send them home.
So my question is for
So-
a patient who's paying out of pocket.
Yeah.
Which is cheaper?
See, at the end of the day, I feel the azacitidine is going to be costly because they're going to do it indefinitely for quite some time.
Okay.
So ultimately, the end pocket will be much bigger. At the starting, the first month will be cheaper.
So let me ask for the government schemes, what do they pay for the HIDACs? I think about 50,000 is the cutoff, what I remember from what I read.
88
For
Telangana.
HIDAC,
HIDAC 88 Telangana.
88
80,000.
88,000 rupees. Okay. So you are able to manage 3 HIDACs and induction in what amount you get?
Yeah, the total package amount is 5 lakhs. For induction,
Total
3
is
HIDACs, we can
Induction
manage.
plus 3 HIDACs in
Yes,
5 lakhs.
yes.
Okay, fine. So that sounds reasonable.
And the last line on the government thing, I don't think I have finished any AML treatment on a government protocol
Okay.
because 5 lakhs is just not enough.
So
Neutropenia is
those are my thoughts also. So I am not able to induce any of my patients in less than maybe 6 lakhs or
with the
7 lakhs or
first,
so.
with the first high dose, I think the money gets over. If
I-
they had a
I
bad,
think so.
if
I
they
think
have a
so.
bad induction.
And then some other strategies, maybe maintenance. We'll have a discussion on that also. So this is the evidence of chemotherapy in the older adults. You can see there is a lot of resistant disease here. So 41% are resistant to 3 and 7. And the survival and the TRM also is more with 3 and 7 induction in the elderly population. But those who achieve a complete remission, they are able to survive longer. So, but yes, it is difficult to induce such a patient who has comorbidities, as mentioned in the scenario for tumor board B. So this is the evidence for AZA and venetoclax. You can see here there is a 3 or 4 month advantage in OS with the azacitidine and venetoclax, and also in the recent data which used both azaven or decitabine venetoclax, the OS was about 16 months for patients who got this treatment, and still not great, but yes, the duration of remission was about 21 months which is also much better than what we used to see with azacitidine alone. And the response rates are to the tune of 60 and 70%, which also sound reasonable. And also they seem to be quicker. For the IDH mutation subset, you can see this is something which is marked. IDH 1 and 2, the hazards are favoring venetoclax and aza much more than the other mutations. So yes, we would do all the mutation analysis at baseline and see if somebody fits in. So this is low dose RRC with venetoclax. I would say slightly inferior than aza and venetoclax, but yes, it remains an option. And also at relapse post aza-ven or decitabine venetoclax. So question 3 is for tumor board C. What would be appropriate line of treatment for this patient if this patient was able to afford all the therapies but were living alone, no spouse around, no children around, they are abroad? What would you do then? So this is for tumor board C. But
So
yes,
you are-
mind you can afford everything.
You're talking about this first case, age 17, what's the age of patient?
So let's say the patient is 60 years,
6 years,
65 years or so.
65.
Yeah.
So definitely we'll go for the first option, aza plus venetoclax.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you are very definite about that. You use the word definitely.
Yeah, sure, because
Okay.
you are telling about the social support is not there. And with the maybe possibility, the availability of the oral aza, so completely oral combination.
So let me now say that patient is able to afford everything. Then what are you going to do?
See, upfront patient may go for the aza plus venetoclax. The third option, like midostaurin, we don't have a trial for the upfront AML with this combination. Maybe in relapse refractory cases, we may add the FLT3 inhibitor with this positivity.
So let's say I would give you a situation where the patient has relapsed post induction and able to afford everything. What would you choose then?
Yeah, then I will go for the option 3.
The
We may add
triplet.
the midostaurin plus venetoclax plus HMA.
Okay. What about CPX 351?
Not much
No.
experience. But
Tumor board B? What would you do in the upfront scenario and at relapse?
As upfront, probably aza-ven, and relapse, third option.
So now I tell you that there's a patient who has an IDH1 mutation also and has to be treated, and he's about 65 years age. Then what is your upfront regimen? And let's say the baseline count is 50,000 or so. 65 years AML, able to afford everything, IDH1 mutated.
We can give AZA plus IDH inhibitors
AZA plus IDH or something more,
plus Veneto.
plus venetoclax. So are you aware of the
I don't
data
know
with that?
Frontline, I'm not
Frontline,
very
no.
sure. No,
So I would tell you some of the frontline data from MD Anderson. The response rates are to the tune of 100%. And the MRD negativity rates are also more than 90% with that. So the triplet of azacitidine, venetoclax, and IDH1 inhibition is able to induce remission in everybody upfront and at relapse also in 90% of patients, this triplet. So this is probably the future, sir, but we are not yet there in India, but yes, it is up and coming, and there's something very exciting happening for AML and elderly AML specifically. So yes, HMA single agent we did discuss, but yes, this for an affording patient probably looks a little inferior. What about gemtuzumab ozogomycin? Where does the tumor board place it? Where should be GO used for AML?
So
In which
usually-
patients?
Usually in low risk patients with core
Okay.
binding factor positivity, there probably it has a role. And also with CD33 strong
expression.
yeah.
So you're very right, because the good seems to be doing good or better with GO addition, but the worst prognosis is not changed with the addition of GO. So all the data is for good risk patients. Addition of GO to chemotherapy, it does improve the outcome. Am I running short on time? 1 minute. Okay. So this is the oral treatment regimen, because now we have oral AZA. So I think this is also going to be an option for some of our patients. So the triplet I've spoken about. What is the choice of donor? Tumor board A. I'll just quickly wrap up
So,
after this.
T
Yeah.
cell deplete is not available.
Yeah.
So I would go for
Not available.
option
It is
two.
available, but
It is expensive. So
expensive.
Haplo T replete should be
T cell
reasonable in
replete.
this patient.
So you mean the PTCY strategy? Timo
Yeah.
board B and C, any other opinions? The patient doesn't have a MUD, doesn't have a matching sibling. T cell replete or deplete? Replete. So that, I think that's consensus there. And what is the benefit of allo in FLT3 ITD mutated patients? The benefit is mostly in the allelic ratio high patients, more than 0.51. And haplo versus MUD, nothing much to choose. More GVHD with MUD and more non-relapse mortality, and the TRM is higher with MUDs, especially when using a MAC protocol. So therapy for maintenance, tumor board B. What maintenance therapy would you choose? Would it be midostaurin, gilteritinib, observation, or AZA?
So for FLT3 positive, there was a trial where midostaurin was not shown to be.
So that's the RATIFY study. We did not show benefit in maintenance. So this is the post hoc analysis. It did not impact DFS, the maintenance phase. So, but yes, Quasar AML, azacitidine, CC486 maintenance, it did show an improved OS with oral azacitidine. And also patients who had a relapse, if you escalated the dose of azacitidine, some of these patients, at least 1 out of 4, they entered remission again. So that is also a very interesting observation for CC486. So tumor board C, what would your therapy of choice for refractory disease in such patients? I think that has been answered, but I would just ask you. This is an
Go for
affording
option-
patient.
Option 5, the
And-
patient affording refractory disease.
So gilteritinib probably is the answer, because it has been compared with chemotherapy and it has shown a better outcome. This is the Kaplan-Meier curves here, and gilteritinib has shown superior median OS, about 9.3 versus 5.6 months. And there is another something new. It's a checkpoint blocker. It's a macrophage checkpoint blocker, magrolimab anti-CD47. This is the new exciting molecule to look at for AML, and I think it is also going to change elderly AML quite a bit. Thank you. And thank you for the excellent discussion to all the tumor board members.
Thank you very much,
So
Prashant.
your last word.
If I could just take a couple of minutes. I still think that treating AML in our country is a big challenge. Majority of our patients are not even able to receive standard of care. There has been progress after several years of 3-7. We have progressed a little bit. The combination of BCL6 inhibitors and hypomethylating agents is very exciting. We have been able to identify some genetic abnormalities in AML and target those abnormalities like the FLT3 mutated AMLs. So I have, 3 things which I want to convey to the Almighty. Number 1, please do not give AML to poor out-of-pocket patients. Give it only to Tatas and Birlas and, other very big guys who can afford 1 CR of treatment, like the case which Prashant mentioned. And number 2, all of us should need to get together, all medical oncologists and hematologists, and show a mirror to the government that AML treatment, particularly for the young fit patient, has to be completely different. And the reimbursement which they have decided in their wisdom has to be modified if even 1/3 of these patients are to be cured. And my third wish on the wish list is that I wish they had asked Prashant to sing us a nice song and not talk about acute myeloid leukemia. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. That's a great observation. Yes, we need better schemes and plans from the government to treat our AML patients. Thank you so much, sir.